welcome to day 3 of our Blank to Beautiful 5-day watercolor challenge. Yesterday we painted clouds and explored lifting, blotting and understanding moisture. Today we are taking a step further and today we will be adding depth and dimension to our fluffy clouds, making your clouds three-dimensional and not looking flat. Because clouds are not just white shapes, they are fluffy, they are three-dimensional, they have shadows and they have depth. If you're joining us today, you can absolutely start here. You don't need to catch up. You can start where you are and join us. Make sure you're inside the Facebook group because that's where everybody is sharing their paintings and cheering each other on and supporting each other. We are growing there together. The link is in the description below. Alright then, let's begin to paint. Now let's do the third method. In the third method, what I'm going to do is, again, it's going to be wet on wet, but we are going to wet around the clouds. I'm going to sketch the shape of the clouds here. So these are the clouds that I have shaped up. Now I'm going to paint around this. You can do wet on wet. You can actually want to do wet on wet. I'll tell you why as I do it. So wet on wet will give me smooth edges and not too dry. There won't be any hard edges or lines forming when we do wet on wet. So let me try wet on wet here and I'll show you how beautiful it turns out. I'm taking a little bit of tinted water like I mentioned earlier because I want you to see that I am wetting the paper and how I'm wetting the paper. And I want you to be, maybe you should do also, because we are using the base color which is blue, so it's not going to impact so much, but it helps, see what I'm trying to do here. You could very well go with clean water, that's fine too. So now when we have wet our paper, give it a little tilt and then go in with the cobalt blue that we mixed. So now here is the cobalt blue that I mixed. You can see it's like a medium consistency or tea-like consistency. It's not creamy, neither it's too watery. So I'm going to tilt my paper and then drop my color. So when I do this, I'm not going to paint on the edge, and the water will allow and the gravity will allow it to flow there, which will allow my clouds to not have that that strong harsh line. I'm just dropping pigment and the water is doing the rest for me. I don't have to overwork with my brush. Don't let your brush get completely dried up when you're painting, because that will lead to having that I completely, it will change the consistency of your pigment because it gets completely soaked out of the pigment and suddenly it has full moisture, so it changes the paint to water ratio on the paper. So try to avoid that. Now When we are at this stage and you think that you have harsh lines forming, what you could do is you could go in with a damp brush and then just work around the edges. So all I'm doing is I'm running my brush across the paper. So it's my damp clean brush so that I don't have any hard edges. You see, this is going to be starkingly harsh if I don't do it now, because now is my paper is wet on the outside. So just on the corner, do not go back in the area where you painted. I am trying to not go disturb that. I'm just trying to do it on the edges of it, just to make sure it softens the edges. So once reached at this stage, I will let my paper dry completely. Now my paper is dried up. Now I'm going to repeat the same step of using neutral tint with cobalt blue. So I'm mixing neutral tint with cobalt blue. You could also use Payne's gray if you like. And now I'm going to just dab my brush so that there is not excess water on it. And before I go in, I'm going to wet the areas where I want to add it. So again, it blends smoothly rather than have harsh lines. So now that I've wetted, I'm going in with a clean brush to blend it. Because this is a textured paper, you don't always get to the tooth of it. So if you want to deepen it, I'm going to repeat the same step here. I'm going to wet the lower bottom where I want to add the shadows. And then go ahead and add it. I think this is way too dark. I'm going to dilute it. And mix it here with a little bit of blue. So now this is adding another layer wherever you want to deepen the shadows, so they look fluffier. And suddenly you feel like your clouds have three-dimensional shapes and is not just, a 2D figure. So this is the second way I paint. I'm not going to overdo this. This is the third way I paint clouds. I am going to just one last thing before I move on to the fourth way. Yeah, so this is my third way of doing it. Now let's go on the fourth way, which is going to be a little bit of wet on wet and using blooms. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to paint with cobalt blue. So I'm mixing cobalt blue here, and then I'm going to go back. If you prefer doing wet on wet on the background, it's completely fine. I want to do wet on dry here because since I will be using blooms and will be adding more layers, I just don't want my paper to become blobby and have puddles. But it's completely okay to go wet on wet. It's completely personal choice. It will not vary the results you get. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift off the pigment. So here you can see I'm lifting off with my brush and creating that shape. And now I'm going to add the neutral tint and let it bloom while it's still wet, wherever I want to add shadows. In this method, it really is about getting the consistency of pigment and water right on your brush, and then layering it with the right tonal values. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add only water here to lift off my blue, to create like a highlight. This works perfectly when you're trying to create a cloudy sky, a gloomy sky, or a moody sky. So this method really works. And then I'm going to add a little darker value on the base while the paper is still wet. So this will instantly give my clouds a little more dimension and still not get those hard lines when it dries. So which method do you like the most? These are the ways I paint my clouds, and depending on what I'm trying to achieve, these are the four ways of how I paint my clouds. Um, do you have a favorite? So for today's exercise, I would love to see, you doing all four ways of sky and posting it on the Facebook group. I'm looking forward to celebrate each other's wins today. Take a moment to admire what you have created today. Look at the sky and see how different the clouds look. And now you will observe that the clouds glow, they have shadow, and they are absolutely beautiful. If your shadows look darker and the edges look harsh, don't panic. Watercolor rewards patience and repetition. You have to keep observing and building on your skills. The more you keep practicing this layering technique, the better you get at it. Give it some time and practice will definitely reward you with progress. The more you practice this layering technique, the better your results will be and the more natural your clouds will look. Now here's what I'd love for you to do. Share your paintings in the Facebook group. Tell us which method felt the easiest to you and what surprised you. And if you're on Instagram, don't forget to tag me at Preeti Gupta Art. I would love to give you a shout out and support you. I genuinely love celebrating progress. Even if you feel you're behind, even if you missed a day, you can still join us. It's not too late. All the links are listed in the description box below. Tomorrow we'll be taking another route. We will be painting reflections and understanding tonal values. So I'll see you on day 4.